Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We will just give everybody a couple minutes to settle in, but glad to see everybody's boxes logging on. And just a heads up, we are recording today, y'all. So we will be recording the panel. So just giving everybody a heads up. Hi, Josiah. Hi, Marcus. And then let's see. Oh, hi, Debbie.
Hello.
Nancy. Awesome. Okay. Good morning, students. I'm going to go ahead and pop our pre-survey in the chat. So if you could take a minute to just go ahead and do that so we can make sure that we track everybody's attendance. And then, like I had mentioned in the email, everybody, right, if you have any questions that you would like us to ask the panelists, you can message, any one of the peer mentors, or you can message the fulfillment fund staff, and we can definitely ask those questions. We do have a list, right, that we're going to go through, but obviously this is your time too, so we want to make sure that we cover anything that you're interested in as well. All right, everybody. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Mauro. But again, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us for week 4 of Camp Fulfillment Fund. This is our second to last week, right? So after this week, we'll have one more day in the office. We'll have another virtual session, and then we'll have our end of summer celebration. So thanks for hanging in there with us, you guys. We appreciate it. All right, and then Mauro, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Olivia. Good morning, everyone. So just to reintroduce myself, my name is Mauro. I'm the lead college success advisor here at Fulfillment Fund. So I'm really excited to be facilitating our panel for today. We have some amazing panelists that have joined us and are volunteering their time to be here this morning. So please, kind of like we talked about yesterday, ask those questions. There's no question that's too big or small. This is a perfect opportunity, especially as we're all getting ready to start the academic year in just a few weeks, right? So some of us are starting in a little less than a month, which is I know exciting and nerve-wracking, and others a little bit longer. But yeah, take this time to ask questions. So I'm going to introduce our panelists, and to our panelists, if I mispronounce your name, please let me know. Want to make sure I get it right. But with us today, we have Nancy Terriquez from Cal Poly Pomona. We have Debbie Esparza from Occidental College. We have Marcus Mathis from UC Santa Barbara, and we have Josiah Greer from UC Davis. And so I'm really excited to have them join us and answer a couple of questions. And like Olivia mentioned, I'll start off with a few questions, and any questions that you have, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll just be taking a peek every now and then to see what you all have for us. So my first question is, can you all talk a little bit about what your role is on campus and how you typically support students? And I'll start with Debbie, and then we can go from there if that's okay.
Unmute myself. There we go. Good morning, everyone. As Mauro said, my name is Debbie Esparza, and I actually work in the Office of Financial Aid here at Occidental College. I am the assistant director, and as the name says, we assist students with funding their college education through a combination of grants, scholarships, work study, and um, I guess notorious loans at this point in time, but they're still there.
Okay.
Was that what you had asked? I didn't
Yeah,
know if
yeah.
you.
Thank you so much. So yeah, well, we'll definitely have some follow-up questions in regards to talking to offices, especially financial aid. So thank you for that. I'll pass it off to Nancy.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Nancy Mejia Terriquez. I'm the senior coordinator of the Bronco Advising Center at Cal Poly Pomona. And our office is kind of like a one-stop area at the university. So we help with various things like general academic advising, general financial aid. We can help with registration or anything regarding the students' records.
Okay, awesome. So it's like your one-stop shop for
Yeah,
everything. That's
yeah,
awesome.
definitely.
Great. And then Marcus, I'll pass it off to you.
Hey y'all, my name is Marcus Mathis, Assistant Director for Community Engagement at UCSB Admissions. Before I was in admissions, I was actually a counselor in the EOP program. So EOP stands for Education Opportunity Program. Fantastic resource. I'll be bringing it up during this panel. And I ran the Afro Diasporic and Chicano Latino Cultural Resource Centers. So that work kind of bled into my admissions work. So I do recruiting for the very same communities. Some of what we do is also what we call the warm handoff. So when students are enrolling or coming to our campus, we want to make sure they have the resources they need before they start. So that's kind of part of the process too.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for the EOP plug. We love EOP. It's a great resource for all students to take advantage of. And then last but not least, I'll pass it over to Josiah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Josiah Damaris Greer. I serve as the Assistant Director of Community Partnerships and Undergraduate Admissions at UC Davis. Pretty much everything that Marcus just said, I do that for UC Davis. I also have to say that I was an EOP counselor as well for about 3 years. So always important to push EOP for first gen, low income, historically disadvantaged students. So absolutely, that's one of the things I make sure that I bring up in every presentation that I do because you never know. And I just want to also make sure people understand that first generation means that your parents didn't graduate from a four-year university here in the United States. So sometimes there's people who come from overseas. They're like, oh, my parents have a degree. You're still considered first gen as far as the US is concerned. So still make sure that you apply to programs like EOP.
Absolutely. Definitely a really important distinction. So thank you for putting that out there. So, this week we started talking with our students about accessing resources and really just the numerous resources that students have available to them once they step on campus. But what are some of the first offices or resources students should familiarize themselves with during that first week, during the first few weeks of school? I'll open it up to whoever would like to go first.
I guess I can start. So the cool part about this is a lot of these campuses, when you move in, there's a whole week of programming and activities that happen before classes start. So they call different things like we call it week of welcome, right? So, other schools have different names for it. And all the departments are going to have events. They're going to have mixers. There's going to be a student org fair. There's going to be all kinds of opportunities for you to learn about resources on campus. So the one I would say is obviously I like EOP because it's a good opportunity if there's anything happening in your life, like they can kind of move you in the direction to get the support, whether it be financial aid, whether it be CAPS, I mean counseling, or whether it be your registrar. They can they know how to funnel you to where you need to go to solve your problem. So I think that's a really good resource to start with.
Yeah, I would sort of piggyback on what Marcus said is that we have, obviously there's orientation, but they also do smaller group, like individual, not individual, but small group tours around campus, like with the student leaders, and they take them to the different buildings and the different offices, and we all have to do, I think they make it sort of play, fun, where they all have kind of like, I don't want to call them quizzes, but like questions that they ask the students about each department that we have to make up so that, to make it more interactive. And so it's fun trying to make up those questions. And then they come in and they get little prizes and stuff. So it's fun.
Yeah. Cal Poly Pomona also has a welcome week, but I would say the main offices to definitely familiarize yourself with would be the financial aid office and then the registrar's office. And then for the registrar's office, you can do various things there. They can help you with, anything troubleshooting with, registration, or they're pretty much like a record keeping department. So if you need transcripts or if you need verification letters for whatever reason, for a scholarship or whatever that may be, you can go to the registrar's office for that.
Yeah, for Davis, I'm just going to say, or just for any college, I'm going to echo everything that they said, but I'm also going to add the Career Center. That's a really, really important resource for students. If you're looking for an opportunity for a job, an internship, they even have opportunities for scholarships as well. So go to your Career Center and do not wait until year 3 or year 4, because by then you've kind of wasted a lot of that time to be able to gain experience. So go to the Career Center, give yourself some opportunity to make some additional funds, but also to get experience, because that's what companies are looking for. They're looking for people not only with a degree from the top university, which is all these institutions are, but they're also looking for people with experience in that particular field.
Yeah, absolutely. And all really great, great places to start, right? Whether it's in your first week or even down the line as you progress through your semester, your quarter, a lot of amazing things that you can access. And so, right now, that you mentioned the Career Center, Josiah, I started thinking about this question. What are some either resources or services that students tend to access. I don't want to say late, but maybe just a little bit later in the semester that they maybe could, or in their college journey that they could have otherwise accessed like earlier on. Are there any offices or services or resources that you all know of that students tend to sort of access a little bit later on that maybe they just didn't realize?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with this one. I'm going to say the study abroad office. Students often don't look at the opportunity to go live in another country and still pay the same tuition that they're paying at their current institution. Oftentimes, they wait until it's either too late or they kind of, by the time they find out about it, they're like, oh, my schedule doesn't fit, or the classes that I need isn't offered at that particular university that I would like to go and attend. So I would recommend going early, even in your first quarter. You can go and begin to start to understand what the process is like, so that after your first quarter, now you're on a projection or a trajectory to be able to take advantage of that study abroad opportunity. I'm telling you now, it's one of the biggest regrets that I have as far as my undergraduate career. I did a lot when I was in school, but the one thing that I said I wish I would have done was study abroad, because there's so many opportunities that have opened up to individuals that did do study abroad because of that. So I would definitely say that's something that people do not utilize as much as the study abroad office.
I would say at Oxy, I'm not going to say that it's impossible not to be aware of services or opportunities, but I think one of the unique things about Occidental is that we are a residential campus for the first 3 years. And because of that, I mean, sure, any student can stick their head in the sand if they like, but it's almost impossible, but difficult, let's say, not to be aware of things that are happening on campus because we're small school. If you live here, it's everywhere, and I think students are at least aware of most of the things that are on campus. So honestly, I haven't really heard too many students say, "Oh, I didn't know about this. I wish I had known about that," or that type of thing. Between living on campus, having the RAs, having we call it SLI student. I can't remember something engagement office. That is a very big office here. Basically, like student engagement type, where they have programs, fun stuff, and also educational stuff for the students. So I think between, just all the different offices and all the different involvement that they're kind of exposed to, if not required, to see or attend, they really do at least get are made aware of these things. Whether or not they participate is a different thing, but definitely made aware.
I would echo Josiah on education abroad. It's a fantastic opportunity. And remember, y'all, your financial aid can cover you going abroad. And there are some countries that are even the same price or cheaper than being at UCSB or at the UC campus. So that's a really good resource. One thing at UCSB that's that I just learned about was the Adventure Pass, and I had no idea this existed until like a year ago. I've been here for 20 years, but you can actually get an Adventure Pass, and you can like rent kayaks, you can get camping supplies. There's all kind of cool stuff you can borrow for free if you pay. I think it's like $100 for all 4 years, and there's a lot of resources and things like that. You can take advantage of the outdoors. So that's something I'll take advantage of.
Yeah, I think one of the services that students tend to visit, very late in the semester, is advising services. So registration for spring comes up pretty quickly, at least at Cal Poly Pomona. It comes up in October. So right when students are about to register, that's when they start wanting to make appointments with their advisor. So I would say as soon as you're enrolled in classes and the when the term starts, start making an appointment with your advisor. So in that way you're prepared for the second semester and you know exactly what classes you're going to be taking.
And thank you so much for reminding me of that, Nancy. That was something that we talked about yesterday was, that responsibility piece that kind of falls on the student to make sure that they're aware of like when they're supposed to register, what time their appointments open, their portals open, things like that. So, like we mentioned yesterday, students like talk to your advisors, as soon as you get on campus and start to work with them to map out what, future terms are going to be like. And I know it can be a little challenging because you're just starting school and you're already kind of almost forced to think about the following semester, but it's really about just making sure that you're staying on track and keeping track of these things too. Um, and so kind of on the topic of like resources, right? I think throughout this week and throughout this summer, we've been mentioning to students that there are lots of resources, there are lots of services that they can take advantage of. And that can be a little overwhelming, right? Especially as a student coming onto campus, there's all these amazing things that I can take advantage of. What recommendations or tips would you have for students to kind of narrow down their choices or kind of help them decide where do I go to first or where should I navigate to first? Any recommendations or tips on that?
I would say my recommendation would be first to meet with your professors. And the reason I say that is because you're probably enrolled or registered in classes that might spark your interest, right? And so I think talking, if you're able to go to your professor's office hours, they may have a better opportunity or a better pathway to kind of narrow that down because you are going to be bombarded in those first couple of weeks with a ton of different student organizations and clubs, and everybody wants you to join, and fraternities and sororities and everything else, right? So I think if you're able to go to your professor's office hours and say, hey, listen, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I just want to know maybe ask their perspective. Hey, what do you recommend? These are all the things that I'm considering. Am I doing too much? Like, because they love the professors love when you come in there and talk to them. They really do. They be on Facebook during their office hours waiting for people to come talk to them. So I'm just saying that because I have a lot of friends that are professors. They like students don't come see me. So definitely come see them, right? They will help you with a plan and organize and say, hey, this one might not be as good because they also have been on the campus for a couple of years. So they know some of the clubs or organizations that may be more beneficial to you, especially if it's catered towards your specific major. So I would say if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling like it's too much, I would say just go talk to a professor. Even if you don't have the best relationship with them, they still can give you some good insight and information. And I always go by the theme of eat the fish and spit out the bones, right? Maybe they give you information that you can use. And if they don't, then just throw it away and say, okay, I'm going to talk to a different professor and get some different advice.
I would say a good first resource would be RAs. RAs are there for a reason. Our RAs are chosen. I'm sure most are chosen for a reason. I mean, not just because they're students, but because, the things that they're involved in, the clubs, the activities, the, government, the, maybe different offices they worked in, that type of thing. They are rather knowledgeable. And so they, I think, are a wealth of information, and they are students as well. So they will come at it from the same perspective. So I think that they would be or are an excellent resource for first year or students just starting out at college or university.
This isn't necessarily a resource, but if you haven't already attended orientation, I would say try to make a friend at orientation and explore the campus together. A lot of these campuses are really big, and you don't want to be lost on your first day of classes. So just explore the campus together and familiarize yourself with the campus.
Mhm. I would say go meet your departmental advisor because they can be really helpful as well. So if you're a social major, just go in there and talk to the social advisor, because they know of opportunities that come up really fast. They know what professors are doing. They know about internships and opportunities for research and all kind of cool opportunities on campus. So get to know them too.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for that. And I think you all kind of have already started talking about this, right? One of the things that has come up over the last couple of weeks, when we talk to students about going and talking to professors or staff is, this feeling of like intimidation, right? There's like a little bit of that intimidating feeling of like reaching out to a professor or a staff member because it's the first time they're doing it, right? And so what advice would you have for students who feel that intimidation or feel maybe a little scared to approach a professor or even like a staff member, right? Like, and Debbie, I'm kind of looking at you only because you mentioned financial aid. And so I know some students have also brought up financial aid. So definitely would love to hear any advice or tips you have on how to approach those conversations, how to approach these individuals on campus.
Yeah, I think financial aid is probably one of the biggest areas that students are, and families actually, just parents too. Especially if they're not English speaking. I think that sometimes they might feel that no one will be able to, communicate with them and they don't understand the process. So it's definitely, it can be difficult. I mean, I would actually like to start doing some more outreach to students, not just like the emails and the postings and such like that, because, well, obviously those are necessary. I'd like to do something where students see us as just people that, really want to help. Anyone who works in any student services, that's why we do it. We do it for the students and wanting to assist them and provide these services for them, let them know about these services. But I think that in their minds, it can just get, it's intimidating, it's complicated, all the forms, all the applications, and then you start talking about calculations and need and and what does it all mean? It's like a different language, and so yeah, I mean, I wish I could say that right now we have all of these things that we do, and but I am hoping that we will start to do that. We had for a while some just I think this happens from time to time where the school the office, you have some turnaround and stuff, and so we actually we sort of experienced that about I don't know, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And so since then we now have a solid staff, and we are gelling, and so I'm hoping that maybe in the next couple of years that we will start to implement some of these things where, going out to the quad, maybe have tabling type thing when it's time to do applications, and just talk to them, as, hey, have any questions, that type of thing. Do like what is that, like the doctor is in type thing, if you have any financial aid questions. But as of now, right now, we're kind of doing the traditional, which I mean, as I said, it's a necessity, but I just don't think it's making it user friendly or less intimidating for students. So I really would like to get to that more. If anybody has any suggestions that they do, I mean, anything that they do, I'm all ears.
I guess in regards to with the professors, my recommendation for students is to, if you ever want to break the ice, ask a professor, what are they researching? That's a great way to get them talking, right? So now they feel like you're interested in them, and so after they finish talking about what their research is, then you can say, oh, by the way, right? It's just a great conversation starter with a professor. So if you go into their office hours and you're nervous or you're scared or you think you don't know what to say, just ask, could you tell me more about your research? And I promise you, they will take it from there as far as the talking thing. And that will get you warmed up to say, okay, well, this is a human being. It's not just like a title anymore. This is a person and they have a passion, right? And so hopefully with them talking about their research, that'll give you the confidence or the energy or even the opportunity to ask a question that may have, that may be more towards your interest. So it's a great icebreaker for professors is just ask them about what they're doing, what their research is, and then hopefully that'll give you the confidence that you need.
Yeah, I want to echo what Debbie said. Student services professionals are there to help you, so whatever questions you have, please visit us before it's too late. And then if you're just nervous to see someone in person, at least for our office, there's various ways that you can communicate with us. So whether that be by phone, by email, we even assist students virtually. So definitely look up the website for that specific department that you want to reach out to beforehand and see in what ways you can communicate with them. And again, if you're nervous about talking to someone in person, you can always do it in other modes.
Yeah, I would echo, everything Nancy, Josiah, and Debbie said. I'll just add, if you're going to see a professor in office hours, there are various reasons to go, right? If you're going for help, with something in regard to the course, it's usually it's productive to have a very strong question, like specific question. It's like saying you can't go in there and say, my back hurts because they don't know where to help. If you say this specific area is where I'm struggling, then they're happy to help you and answer your question. So if you can go in there, and that also helps you with your learning, that metacognition, right? What do I not understand about this particular concept? And if you can identify that, it makes it so much easier to solve that problem.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All these are really great recommendations, especially Josiah, like you mentioned, what are you researching? Um, Helpful ways to break the ice and really start those conversations and then, kind of plug in some of your questions from there. Debbie, love the idea of trying to do something a little bit more like informal meetings, it sounds like with students. So like coffee with financial aid, come out to the quad and we'll answer some general questions I think would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One year at a school that I was with previously, I did a lemonade stand, like aid as in AID, and oh my goodness, it was an absolute hit. Like I built a small, like very informal small stand out of like the crates, and I just painted them white and put some decorations and had some lemonade and goodies. And but before they could like, and I also did a little what do you call it? Raffle, very small little doodads.
Mhm.
And but before they could actually, get goodies and their lemonade, and they had to actually get like a little information sheet. And so I made them kind of go through the line. And I found that that was, I mean, I think part of the or the biggest thing is just getting them to come and see you, just getting them to take that first step. Once they do that and they realize you're really just people trying to help, it can make all the difference in the world. And one of the things that I didn't say, you shouldn't also necessarily assume that there isn't somebody that, might speak like the language your parents speak. I have worked at schools where, there was a large Armenian population and we had people that spoke Armenian. Here at Oxy, we have, families that speak Spanish. We have Spanish speakers that can also help. Families are actually quite surprised when they're like, "Oh, you do?" And they're so relieved that they can just say that. So, I'm not saying that every school has, your has somebody who speaks your language, but again, never shut yourself out. Or just assume something, go and ask, and you might be surprised.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And that kind of brings me to my next question. And we're kind of leaning into this part of the conversation of like building relationships, right? Whether that's with a staff member, a faculty member. Can you all talk about that, the importance of building a relationship with somebody on campus and what that could mean for a student, or even from personal experience, right? Like when you all went to school, like was there somebody specifically who you were like, yeah, like this was my person I went to, and this is how I was able to benefit from them. Would definitely love to hear about that as well.
Yeah, I can answer. I mean, it's so important to build relationships in school. Like, you gotta get out there and meet folks. I think that helped me with my career, right? I was an art history major. I was art history and Black studies. I was a double major. And I was going to my office hours for one of my art history classes, and the professor just happened to be a chief curator at LA Academy Museum, right? So he's like, "Hey, I got this internship in the Lewin Center for Latin American Art," and he just went straight down there, and I got the interview and I got the internship just from making those connections, just by going to office hours. And I was able to work at LACMA for a couple of years, do really, really cool research that helped me get into grad school and all kind of stuff. So just by going to office hours and making your interests known, you can really push your career forward and your interests forward.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Marcus. I think that you never know. I mean, it may be just like maybe you start talking to somebody in the, well, I guess career center would be kind of obvious, but registrar's office. And once you come in, and one of the things I love about Oxy is that we're a small school. We get to know our students by name. We see them. I know that's not always possible, but it is when you can, that's really nice. But regardless of how, or where, no matter where you're at, you can build a relationship with someone, like everyone's been saying, with your professor, with a particular office, if you just happen to have issues or questions or things that you need help with in that particular department. Extracurricular activities, again, everybody knows everybody, especially, at schools, in student services. We all know somebody, we all know things. So if you know, happen to come in and be asking questions and we just happen to be talking and you say something about something and I go, oh, you know, so-and-so over here knows about that, is like an expert in that. And then, you know, you go there and I mean, it's like a web, you know, it all just sort of connects and builds. So don't ever underestimate or think that, oh, you know, what does so-and-so know about what I like or what I need or what I want? Because it really isn't like that at all. We all communicate and talk to each other. And so, um, you know, definitely start building. You build one relationship, it connects to another relationship, it connects to another relationship, and it's really important to do that in school. This is your time to kind of explore and discover what you want to do and how to get there. So don't be afraid because that's why we're all here.
I would say too, if you're able to get a job on campus, it helps you to feel connected to the campus. And I would also say, like everyone mentioned, get connected with your professors. I know I was a transfer student, and my first term, when I transferred to my university, I went into my grades were really bad and my GPA was really low. And I ended up talking to one of my professors in one of my ethnic and women studies classes, and he pretty much connected me to the right people. So, like Debbie mentioned, a lot of people know a lot of people. So, he connected me to someone on campus who helped me get the process started to improve my GPA. And then she helped me actually get a job on campus. So it was just like um, again, everyone is pretty well connected. So definitely just ask and talk to someone if you ever find yourself um, in a time where you need the help.
Yeah, personal story just about kind of what you just said, Nancy, is when I first started school, I didn't have work study and I didn't have a job, but I actually had a loan and I went to go sign my papers, which for whatever reason was separate from the financial aid office where I went to school. I just had like a loan office, but I mean, obviously financial aid and the loan office are connected, but still, you know, so I was just talking to her about how, you know, I was worried because I really needed a job and she said, hold on one moment. And she got on the phone and she called somebody and she said, okay, I want you to go to this office. And I said, okay. And I went over there and you know, 5 minutes, I had a job. So that's exactly how it happens. And that's a good example of what Marcus said too. So.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely echo everything that the my fellow panelists have said. One of the things I'll just say is that, or stress, if I can, is that institutions, higher education universities, provide an opportunity that social media doesn't provide, that AI doesn't provide, and that's really the ability to create authentic relationships, authentic networking with people, with thousands of people. And so I just want to encourage individuals, get out there, get to know some individuals. These are the future doctors, lawyers, engineers. So if there's ever anything happening in my life, there's a person that I met from college that I can call and to get some support, some help, some advice. And that's for doctor, lawyers, that's a mechanic, that's an electrician, all of those things I met when I was in college. And the other important thing is that just like Marcus and I shared earlier, we worked multiple roles at institutions, and I'm sure Nancy and Debbie can say this as well too. So when you go to an individual, yeah, they might work in admissions or financial aid or a particular office, but they have experience elsewhere as well, which means they have connections elsewhere as well. So figure out who you're going to develop that relationship with. You have no idea the connections that they have and the opportunities that they can provide for you simply just off of basic conversation. So don't be afraid to talk about your passion. Don't be afraid to talk about your interests. And it's okay because college is meant to provide you with that opportunity to learn and grow and develop. And relationships are how we do that.
Yeah, I mean, 1000% agree. I love this, like, the theme of like just talk to one person, right? Because the minute you talk to that one person, you now have access to the information that they have. You have access to their network as well, right? And that's really how this snowball effects these snowball effects happen, right? Like even just by asking a question. I know in some cases some students come in with just kind of say something in passing, right? And that's how that different conversation starts. So I definitely love like what everybody's saying. So thank you for that. One of the things that was brought up too was this idea of like students are building different students are growing, right? And they're developing when they're in college. And one of the pieces that I think is really important that continues to develop is that self-advocacy piece. And so as students are navigating, whether it's like academic challenges, financial challenges or whatever it might be, um, how what do you all say to this, or how can students advocate for themselves when it comes to things like that when they're faced with those like specific challenges? Any tips or any advice for students in that regard?
I'll say this is where I believe living on campus truly helps, right? Because oftentimes, for many students that are entering in college as a first-time freshman, or even sometimes as transfer students, that's the first time that they are solely responsible for themselves, right? They don't have maybe a parent that's going to every single class, that's going to all those things, right? And so when you live on campus, it's kind of forces you to advocate for yourself in that aspect. But I don't want students to think that just because I don't live on campus, I can't advocate, because that's not true. You absolutely can. My recommendation for that is to, one, start with advocating with your friends. When you're able to talk about your feelings, talk about the things that you're experiencing with your friends, they typically can kind of help encourage you or motivate you or inspire you to give you that confidence that you need to be able to advocate to another person and to another person and then to another person. And before you know it, you feel the confidence. And this is kind of what social media does. It allows you to feel the confidence to say, no, I actually have a good opinion. Let me go ahead and express that, right? So talk to a friend, an advisor, a counselor first, gain that confidence so that you can feel more the ability to then advocate for yourself in an issue where you felt like you were done wrong, or maybe you felt like a professor gave you a B but you deserved an A, right? You feel like now the confidence to be able to go to that professor and say, hey, how come I got a B? I think I actually deserved an A. And you can have that conversation, and before you know it, the professor actually respects you more because they saw that you advocated for themselves and you were able to articulate what it is that you felt you deserved.
Yeah, I would say, sometimes asking for help is enough. That's a start, right? There's so many students that you can fall through the cracks if you don't get the support. If you wait until you're in real deep trouble, in terms of your major or your financial aid and your billing and things like that. So going to a place, and I know I mentioned holistic advising, right? EOP is such a good place to go. For example, I had a student a few years ago. They came to my office. They said, "Okay, I want to withdraw from UCSB." I'm like, "How come?" They're like, "Well, I'm just not doing well." I'm like, "How come you're not doing well?" They're like, I'm not doing my reading. I don't have my reading. Why aren't you doing your reading? Because I don't have my books. How come you don't have your books? Because I don't have any money. How come you don't have any money? Because I didn't get my loans. I don't have any financial aid. So it was turning into this whole chain of questioning that led to us connecting them with the financial aid department to figure out if they had thousands of dollars of direct loans they could have taken out to help pay for the books they needed in order to succeed in school. Right. So going somewhere where people can ask those kind of questions and can kind of figure out and triage, where you need to go to get the support you need, that's just the first step. Just go in there and get the support like that.
I think I'm going to revert to um my role as a mom and auntie to I have always told I told my daughter and I tell my nephews, I'll ask them questions like if they're in high school right now, or not my daughter, but my nephews, and when they're having issues, I'd say, okay, so whose education is this? And they'd say mine, and I'd say, so whose responsibility is it? Mine. Okay, so then knowing that, what do you think the first step is? And kind of take it that way. Now, I know that we're talking about like on college what we can do, but kind of what I think it was Josiah said, friends. Knowing that now, maybe you can then be that friend to somebody else moving forward. But truly think about that. You know, you're in school and you are paying for this education. You want to get the most out of it. You should get the most out of it. That's why you're there. That's why the college exists. So I know that it can be scary, especially when you don't know, or maybe you're shy. I was the most shy kid ever. I just, I used to walk around with my head down all the time because I was just, I don't know, I was just really shy and embarrassed to talk to people. But what I learned is that once I took that first step, it got easier because people were listening to me. And if that person, and I also learned if that person didn't listen to me, this was later on, then maybe I needed to find the next person. You don't just give up because, again, there could be a myriad of reasons why that maybe that first person can't. I'm not about um, saying, oh, that person doesn't know what they're doing or whatever. There could be a myriad of reasons. Maybe they're just not the right person at that point in time. So you find the next person. That is what advocating for yourself is. You don't give up. This is your education. And if you're intent on getting it, you need to do everything that you can do. And so I don't mean to just make light of any challenges you have, but I do want you to remember at the end of the day, it's your education, and that's why you're there. That's why the college is there, and we do want to help. And so, try to look within yourself and find that strength to take that first step, because I promise you, if you take it, it will become easier and easier to do as you move through college and all different and life in all different aspects. It could be your job. Well, if that's your job and you love that job and you want that job, what do you need to do to be successful in it? And that's what you have to ask yourself. This is my education. What do I need to do? What resources do I need to be successful? I need help. I need tutoring. I need financial aid to buy my books. I need, whatever it is that you need. I need some extracurricular. I want to get an internship in my area of study. At the end of the day, it's on you to go out and look for those things. Yes, we can do everything that we can do to outreach, but you have to take that first step. So I'm sorry if I'm being mom, but I do think that is a part of being a student is starting to do these things for yourself, and not it's kind of a safe place for you to start handling your own business, so to speak, and taking those first step as being an adult. And it's a safe place because, if you kind of mess up, it's not a big deal. And you can also always talk to mom if you feel like you're not getting or you're not making headway on what you need. But always try to take it upon yourself. What can I do? Where can I go to advocate for myself? So I hope that's not too preachy. I'm not trying to be preachy. I'm just trying to say, hey, this is me. This is this is my area. What do I need to do? What can I do? Because I want that college should be in an empowering place for you. So there's my mom's speech.
I would also say do your research. So a lot of the whatever challenge it is that you're experiencing, more than likely you're going to find the answer, through a website, or you're going to find more information on a website. And then once you've gotten that information, then go talk to someone and say, look, this is what I found online. How can I begin this process, or how can I do this? And like Debbie mentioned, if you feel like the answer that you're getting isn't correct, then go to another person, go email someone, or email, their higher up or whoever it might be, until that you're getting the answer that you're supposed to.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I mean, I definitely love the theme of like, if you don't get the response that you wanted from one person, let's move on to the next, right? There's thousands of professionals on campus that can, that can offer support, as well as your peers, right? Or your peers are there also to be, to follow their academic, journeys, but it's important to grow and to learn and to succeed together. So that's a big thing. So we're coming down to the last few questions. So students, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I've seen a couple of comments and definitely want to highlight the one that Olivia mentioned. College is a safe place to start getting comfortable with adulting and trying different strategies of support. And that's a huge thing, right? You're in a space where you can try different things and really learn where your approach is, right? And I think that's going to shift from office, from person to person and all that, but it's definitely a good place to start practicing that. And so one of the other things that we started talking about yesterday with students was like habits that they should be building, habits that maybe students should start letting go as they transition into college. And so, are there any specific habits or maybe trends with habits that you all have noticed among students who thrive during their first year of college? Any particular habits that you all can point to or yeah, just point to?
I would say a lot, at least our institution, we give out free planners. Start getting a planner and start inputting deadlines, start inputting the first day of class, you're going to get a syllabus of all of the assignments that you need to do for that particular class. Start adding all of your deadlines in there. Like I mentioned earlier, spring registration comes up pretty quickly. So um, look up when spring registration is going to happen. So in that way you have that in your calendar. So just stay organized from day one. So in that way you know exactly what you need to do by those specific deadlines.
I would agree with that. And I always tell students, treat school like a full-time job, right? Just because you have class at 10 o'clock and that's it on Mondays, that don't mean you're off campus all day playing Mario Kart or something. Like think of it as a full-time job. Get there in the morning and leave in the afternoon, right? If you're not in class, you might have a job, you might be doing some reading, so working on a paper, like be productive. I think it's that transition from high school to college can be jarring because in high school, yeah, everything's locked in. Eight to three is packed. Where in college, yeah, I mean, my son just finished at UC Merced, and there are days, right? You only have class one. You might not have class at all on Fridays. That don't mean you're not a student that day. You're still taking care of business. So treat it like a full-time job, and that really will help you succeed, especially especially the upper division courses. Once you get a bit past, where it gets a little harder, for sure.
Yeah, Marcus, you say the exact same thing I tell students and again, my nephews. School is your job. Think of it as your job. And what do you need to do for your job? You need to not only be there, for the classes, but you need to also prepare. You need to do your readings. You need to do your assignments, all of that. It all contributes to doing well in your job. And so definitely need to do that. I also agree with Nancy. One of the best things you could do is have a planner and just get yourself organized. Maybe ultimately you'll come down with a system or come up with a system or develop a system that works best for you. But initially, write it all down on a calendar. Just write it all down, see it, and get used to that. Look at your syllabus and transfer, those important dates onto your calendar in one place. It will help you immensely.
Yeah, I would just want to echo everything everyone said, but the other thing I would say is just remember that you're a student first. Oftentimes, I've seen over the years, and even when I was in college, that students fall in love with the social aspect of it and they forget about the academic aspect of it, right? So they want to join a ton of different clubs and organizations. They might even have some leadership positions in those clubs or organizations. They want to study abroad. They want to get an internship. They want to, do all these amazing, they want to be an athlete, right? They want to do all these amazing things. And then they realize that their academics struggle. And the thing you have to remember is that you're only able to do all those other things because you're a student. So if you get academically disqualified or dismissed, you're no longer able to do any of those other things at that institution. So just always remember that you're a student first. Everything else has to come second to your education. And there might be individuals who share the same social aspects, who share the same social interests, who share the same, interests in subject matter, but they don't share the same interest in academic goals, right? The goal is to graduate. And so you have to make sure that you set up a plan to graduate because that's why you're here. Anything else is, I'm not going to call it a distraction, right? Because there's still things that help you, but anything else has to be secondary to the reason you came to this institution in the first place, and that is to get an education.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, first and foremost, all right, they're students, right? You're in school because you're a student, and so a lot of the other amazing opportunities that are within your campus are there, like you said, Josiah, because you're a student, and so definitely important to keep your eye on the prize and keep that focus because that's the main thing. And so, kind of, again, getting to like my last couple of questions. What's one myth about college that you all would like to dispel?
Say that for me, I'm going to give my own personal experience if that's okay.
Yeah,
So
please.
I'm a first gen college student. I didn't know anything about college at all, like at all. I thought college was only for geniuses. I thought this was, you must have had a 4.0 in high school, 3.8 at least to be able to go to college, right? Once I got to college, I realized that if I just go to class and do my work, college is easy. It's really actually easy. If that's all I have to manage, it's not that difficult. It may seem, of course, it's challenging, right? As far as the material you need to learn and research you have to do. But if you think about it as all I have to do is do the same thing that I've been doing for the past 12 years in K through 12, which is go to class and do my homework assignments, that part of college is easy. But sometimes we psych ourselves out and thinking, oh, it's college. I'm at this top institution and I don't know if I'm smart enough and all these other people are geniuses and I'm just lucky I got here. No, no, no. You got there because you deserve to be there. So remember that you're there for a reason and you have the same abilities as all those other students that are at that in that class that are at that institution. Just going to class and doing the homework is easy. So just remember you have the capabilities.
Josiah, you are singing to me. You are just singing to me. I remember, actually, this kind of ties with the Fulfillment Fund. My first event that I'm an alum of the fund. And when I was in high school, I don't remember what grade I was, maybe sophomore. I honestly don't remember, but I went to my first event and my counselor says, "Oh, you're going to this thing, and they're going to talk to you about, college mentorship and college education." I was like, "Oh, okay, get out of class for for an afternoon." And I went, and as I was sitting there and listening to everything that was, happening and going on, and the first, it dawned on me suddenly. I was like, "These people want me to go to college." I can't go to college. I'm not smart enough to go to college. I don't have the grades to go to college. My parents don't, they didn't go to college. I don't know anything about that kind of thing. I was kind of thinking at one point, because of challenges I had, I'll be lucky if I graduate from high school and you want me to go to college? So, but what Josiah's saying is right. I didn't have to be the smartest person in the room. They were telling me it is possible. You can do it. And that's what we're telling you too. It is possible. You can do it. Not only can you do it, you can succeed at it. By the time I finished, I graduated with honors. Who would have thought? So, and I didn't suddenly become a brain or genius. It was just that constant going to my classes, being responsible for myself, doing the work, and enjoying it too, and having other things that I could do on campus as well. It's like I said, it's that sort of like that little jump into adulthood where you're doing things for yourself, and including your education and whether that be community service or things on campus. It's all part of the process. And so thank you for saying that, Josiah, because I have really forgotten about that part. In this process, that it is something that's possible. So if any of you are thinking, "Well, I don't know about this," I'm not sure. No matter what they're saying, believe me, you can, because look, we've done it. And here we are, how many years later? So
I think one of the at least speaking from like my journey too, one of the biggest myths is that you have to graduate within those 4 years. Um, your path is not going to be like everyone else's. So, some students may want to change their major. Maybe you've taken some major classes and you realize this actually isn't the major for me. And I took this other class, and I think this is something that I want to continue pursuing. So that might extend your time towards graduation. I know for me, when I graduated from high school, I went straight into a 4 year university. Didn't really like the major that I went into. And then also I was living pretty far away from my home town. So I decided to come back home. But I ended up at the community college, and I took some time there, and then I ended up transferring over. And I ended up changing my major about two more times after that. So yes, it did extend my time, and there are, some impacts for extending your time as well. But just know that your path is not like everyone else's. Your journey might be different, and just don't compare your journey to other students.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I had the same situation. I came in as one major, changing my third year, which was a choice, and so it took me another couple years. So I finished in 5 years too. I'll say one thing I think people think is you only learn what you major in when you're in college, and you learn so much more, right? If you go to school for engineering or you go to for biology or economics, you're going to learn a lot about that, but you're also going to have general ed classes. You're going to learn about history, about society, but you're also going to learn a lot of soft skills, right? We call them the hidden curriculum. You learn how to manage your time, how to manage your stress. You learn public speaking, right? You're gonna meet people from all over the world. Learn how to communicate with them, be part of a team, to how to lead, right? All these skills are what you take into the workforce. So yes, you're gonna learn about your major, you're gonna learn about other scholastic stuff, but you're also gonna learn a lot of really important skills that are gonna take you really far.
Yeah, thank you all so much for sharing. Like, yes to every single thing that like I literally every single thing resonated with me, right? Like taking your time, forging your own path. Like your paths, like our paths aren't always linear, right? And I think that's one of the things too. Like we're gonna hit some bumps on the road, but there are, again, services on campus and resources that can help you. You know,
I'd like to say one other myth that I
yeah,
think happens is that you don't necessarily, just because you major in one thing, doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you're going to end up doing or that you have to do. Maybe you think that you're going to be a scientist, and so you're majoring in biology and such and high on sciences, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you're going to end up doing. You'd be surprised. I know people that majored in English and ended up being, lawyers because that's a really good background for that. Or I have a friend who majored, I can't remember what she majored in. She ended up being a pastry chef. I mean, what education is not just what you major in, it's education as a whole, and the skills you learn, you can apply them to different things. So don't feel like at some point you're like, oh my God, I went to school, I was going to be a nurse, and now I don't want to be a nurse. That's okay. You can do something else with it. With those, you can still get your degree and do something else.
yeah, 100%. I went to school, majored in political science. I thought I was going to be working at City Hall, and here I am today. Not at City Hall, but still, again, and I found that because of things that I did when I was in school. I was able to narrow down what I truly enjoy. So awesome. So my last question for you all: if our students leave today remembering just one thing about navigating college and asking for help, what do you hope that one thing is?
I would say that I hope that they remember that college is for them. Period. These institutions are built to help you in whatever capacity that you need help. So always feel like you belong. Always remember the all those buildings you see when you go to a college campus. Remember, they built that for me. I'm gonna take full advantage of it. So it's for you.
I'd say don't be afraid.
Mm.
I think we spend too much time being afraid sometimes in life, not just in college, but just in general. But like Josiah just said, you belong there. That's why you're there. And that's why we're here to help you navigate that and get to the finish line. And, the entire institution from faculty and your professors and staff, all the different departments, and your fellow students. So, make use of that and have fun, but, do your work and, take, what's the word? Challenges, I guess. Take chances. Don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone, which I am the first one to tell you, I have a very difficult time doing that. I have to force myself, even as an adult, to do that. So start early, because the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
I would say, I tell students just remember who you are. I mean, like everybody who's starting these schools are selective, right? I mean, a lot of these students have never got under an A or a B, and you're gonna get challenged at some point in your college career. There's gonna be a challenge. You're gonna get your first C. You might even get your first D, right? You might not get that first internship that you applied for. Um, so keep the same energy you had while you were in high school, right? Um, keep it going. Don't give up. And just remember who you are. Keep that same fight that got you into these campuses. Keep it all the way through while you're a student too.
Yeah, I want to echo on what you said, Marcus. I would say always remember your why. Remember why you're going to college in the first place. Remember who you're doing it for, whether it be for you, for your families. And yeah, just enjoy the experience too. This is an opportunity for you to grow and learn about yourself. And then also just adding on advice, don't wait until you're struggling to ask for help. Like we mentioned early on, remember that there's always someone there that's willing to help you.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Students, if we can just give our panelists a virtual round of applause for sharing all this wonderful knowledge and experience and information. I wish I had like half of this information when I started school many, many years ago. But that's why we have these sessions, right? Is to really, remind you all students that as you're getting ready to transition into this next academic year, there are things in place that are there to help you succeed. Utilize them, make sure that you're taking full advantage of all of the opportunities that you have, and just ask questions, right? Be curious, and if you don't get the response you want, there's always somebody who will definitely point you in that direction. And of course, continue to check in with Fulfillment Fund, because we also want to make sure that we can help guide you and provide some direction to whatever questions that you might have. So there is going to be a closing survey in the or a link to a survey in the chat. Team, if we can just pop that in. Students, if we can just fill that out before we leave. Definitely want to get feedback on today's session and see how we can implement that. But to our panelists, thank you all so much for your time, for all the wonderful information. This was truly helpful. Olivia, can I pass it back to you? I don't know if there's any last things you want to add.
Thanks, Mauro. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Josiah. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Debbie. This was really great. I think, like Mauro said, I wish I would have had a session like this before I started college, right? And had not just the advice, but the encouragement, right? And I think that's really important, because like many of our students, and like Mauro had said too, like it was tough. It was their first time going to college too, and any pieces of advice and encouragement were definitely needed. So students, I'm glad that you have this, right? And so I really hope that you take all this information and the advice to heart, because everybody on this call is, rooting for you. We're really supportive of you. We want to make sure that you succeed in any way that we can help you, right? We want to make sure that we can. Right, and Nancy and Debbie, they're Fulfillment Fund alumni, so welcoming them back and welcoming them on this panel has been great. Marcus, I know we've been as Fulfillment Fund, we've been working with you for a while to help, prepare students to go to college. And Josiah, we met you at a conference, so it's just an example of how wide our network is, right? And we want to share that network with you guys too. So appreciate everybody being on this call today, students and our panelists. And just final reminders, right? Make sure you do the checkout link. We will see you next week in the office for our final week of programming. So please make sure that you're there if you can be. Join us in person, online, and then join us for the summer celebration too, so we can, celebrate all of your hard work and see you before you go off into the fall. But thank you, everybody. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.